Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Greenhouse. If you're new with us and you'd like to get connected, you like being here so far, what we ask is that after service, you just see one of our lovely people with a lanyard or scan the QR code in the seat in front of you. We'll get you plugged in that way. We are back in Acts. This week, we are picking up where we were last week, and now Paul and Silas have been in the area of Philippi for a little bit. Obviously, things were going well. People are coming to faith. People are now kind of joining the team. And then all of a sudden, they encounter this girl who's demon-possessed. And the next thing you know, Paul and Silas end up in prison. So we're going to unpack this today. But I want to just ask you a question maybe you've never thought about before. Hopefully today you will. Think about a time in your life, things are going well. You get a new job, you get a new house, you get a new car. You just got married, you just took that vacation you've wanted to take, things are good. Now think of a time in your life things are going bad. Maybe spouse and you aren't doing so well, job loss, sickness, kind of unforeseen diagnosis. Think back to the time when things were going bad. How much did you pray? Think about the time when things were good. How much did you pray? What were your prayers like? Did you feel more connected to God when things were good? Did you feel more connected to God when things were bad? For me, growing up, this was always confusing because I had heard this statement many times, people called fair weather Christians. The more that I've met real Christians, the more I think that doesn't exist. Let me explain. This is what I've experienced, and this is what I think other people are guilty of. Things are good. God, I love you. God, you're awesome. But I can't make it to church this week. I'm going tubing. Just got a new job. Just got married. God, I love you. God, you're awesome. Things are good. But I'm a little busy. Don't have time for small group. It just doesn't work with our schedule. Whatever. As soon as somebody gets a bad diagnosis, as soon as the marriage starts to be a little tense, as soon as something doesn't go the way we planned, God, help me. I've got all this time and I'm going to fast and pray every single day. Make my life better. Help me. Heal me. Oh God. But I'm like a little bit mad at you. So when things are good, my opinion of God is high, but my time with Him doesn't exist. And when things are bad, my opinion of God is low, but I spend all the time with Him because I want Him to fix stuff. Does this sound accurate? It's a paradox. It's almost like when I'm the most mad at God is when I want to talk to Him. And when things are good and I like God, well, now suddenly I'm busy. Paul and Silas find themselves in a very hard position in our passage, specifically because of one thing. They were advancing the kingdom and mission of God, and all of a sudden, this advancement of the kingdom and mission of God has led them to the place where they conflict with someone's wallet, and that person gets mad and gets them thrown in prison. So let's unpack this together. Verse 16, this girl was demon-possessed. Now, funny, there tends to be kind of two schools of thought about evil amongst Christians. One is we talk about it too much. Don't eat that Halloween candy. You'll get demon-possessed. Or kind of our American Western intellectual view, which is if I can't observe it, if I cannot subject it to the scientific method, it must not be real. Right? And that's kind of a hard mesh because it feels to me like the people that I meet that are Christians that usually take spiritual things serious, let's just call it what it is, they get a little weird. Grew up charismatic, we're going to pray for you, we're going to do our tambourine in the choir. Man, when I was growing up, whenever somebody would catch a vibe in the service, they'd start doing this, doing 360s, and it's like, what is happening? However, if my wife was in a car crash, I'm not calling all my theologian buddies to pray, okay? I'm calling the crazy people. Their prayer does stuff. Right? And if I need somebody to preach a funeral, not calling them. Okay? No 360s in the funeral home. Thank you. All right, so what? This girl was demon-possessed, and I think in one sense, she probably had more of a supernatural ability than what we would be comfortable granting. So hold on, you mean to tell me that as Christians, full of the Holy Spirit, full of the one and only sovereign, powerful God, that we are not able to predict the future, but she was? Yeah, that's what what Scripture seems to indicate. And you're telling me that even though she possessed all of these supernatural abilities that Christians don't even possess, Paul was able to cast a demon out of her like that? Yeah, that's what's in there. And I just want to draw kind of some theological implications of what was going on here. Slave girl, she was owned by masters, she was demon-possessed, and she had an ability to predict the future. So they basically turned her into a circus act. Come to Lenore City, pay $5, and you can meet the mystic fortune-telling woman. She will tell you all about your next season, $5. The word in Greek here, and I know I don't do this often, is not divination like it is in English. It's, you're a Christian, you've probably heard of divination before, right? It's the black magic, spiritual, evil practices. Well, the word in Greek that we get divination from is actually Python. She was a Slytherin, She had the spirit of Python, which is crazy. And I saw a guy one time do a sermon on this about the spirit of Python, and he made it this live action thing, and one scene was somebody like shooting up heroin, and then they die, and then the screen turns dark, and then the next scene is somebody drinking alcohol, and they die, and he's like, the Python spirit wants to constrict you until you can't breathe. And I'm like, okay, that's one way to do it. What's Luke trying to tell us here? Okay, for all of my nerds, the spirit of Python correlates to this thing called the Oracle of Delphi. For all of my normal people, and you don't know what that is, cool. All right, so the spirit of Python for her basically was, I have this darkness, evil thing inside of me, and through it, I am able to do supernatural things. The observation here I think we have to make is, one, the demonic spirit that was in her is privy to information that we are not privy to. A little weird. The demonic spirit that was in other people in the New Testament gave people supernatural strength. Who's ever heard of the sons of Sceva? It's in Acts. A man is filled with demons, and these sons of Sceva, who are self-proclaimed prophets, come to this man and they try to cast a demon out of him, and he beats them all up and rips their clothes off, and they go home butt naked and ashamed. True story. And he tells them, he says, Jesus I've heard of, Paul I've heard of, who are you? And then he beats him up. So demonic forces were able to give this girl information that nobody else could get. Demonic forces were able to give that guy supernatural strength. There's a passage in the Gospels where a demonic force had filled this guy's son, and he basically gave him epileptic seizures, and he comes to Jesus. It's the famous, I believe, but help my unbelief passage. It's that guy. So demons are crazy, and frankly, it's not really a one-size-fits-all. And so this is what I want us to see, kind of part one of our passage here. Observation number one of our text. Evil is stronger than we think. There are a lot of really weird people that have some really hot takes about Halloween, and have some really hot takes about if you play AC/DC backwards, right? You know what I'm talking about. But on the other hand, even though there's some weirdness in how we handle evil in the church, evil is real and evil is strong. You with me? But, and this is what I want us to see, if the demon-possessed girl was privy to information that we're not privy to, that means with even more clarity than what I have, and with even more certainty than what you have, she's able to see, hey, no, Jesus is Lord. He's already defeated us, and there's nothing we can do to change the outcome of eternity. So while evil is stronger than we think, if evil knows reality sometimes better than we do, then that means evil knows with more certainty than us that Jesus has already won, right? And so observation one, evil is stronger than we think, but observation two, evil is already defeated. You with me? So the girl begins to follow Paul and Silas, and she's following them around, like literally for days. And this is what she says over and over and over again for days. These men who are proclaiming to you a way of salvation are servants of the Most High God. All right. She's not wrong, okay? What she's saying is true. These guys were proclaiming the way of God. These men do have kind of the way of salvation. But here's what's wild to me as I read this story. Paul had let her follow them for literal days, doesn't do anything about the fact she's demon possessed. And then in the moment that he gets annoyed, he says, enough is enough, you're free. Why not do it like 4 days sooner? I don't know. We'll ask him when we get to heaven. But, okay. Paul's strongest reaction to somebody being demon possessed was not fear. Paul's strongest reaction to being followed by somebody possessed by a demon wasn't paralysis. Paul's strongest reaction to somebody possessed by a demon following them wasn't, I'm terrified. It was, I'm annoyed. What kind of faith do you have? I'm sorry. Demon-possessed person here, and my strongest reaction is not, this is insane. It's, again, dadgummit, third time this week. That's how I react to ants, okay? Not demon-possessed people who can predict the future. Are you guys even awake today? What are we talking about? This is crazy. Imagine having such faith that your strongest reaction to a freaking demon is you're just like, shut up. That's how it feels when I watch the news. Okay, like, this is insane. In verse 18, she had followed them for a while. Paul says, enough is enough. And I just want to ask us this to get us all thinking. Okay, if what she says is true, if they're actually proclaiming the message of God, if they actually have salvation, if they're actually servants of God, why was it such a problem if what she was saying was correct? Make sense? Why such the strong reaction if she's not marketing them falsely? Now, she could have been saying, don't listen to a word that these guys say. They're as good as Mormons. Like, disregard everything they've ever said. Joseph Smith was on crack. Like, they could have gone that route, which is true, by the way. Mormons, right? Like, if you're wondering where I stand on that, okay? She didn't. She's saying, you are right. You are servants of the one true God. And I want to just unpack this for a second. Why was it a problem? I'll be honest with you. I struggled to kind of find an illustration to make this make sense. So here's the best I got. Parks and Rec, anybody? All right? Thank you. Leslie Knope works as, in local government for the city of Pawnee. Leslie is always trying to bring positive change. She wants more events. She wants more organization. She wants more funding for the Parks Department. And what happens later on in the show, Leslie begins to run for public office. And if this is a spoiler, it came out like 2008, okay? So it's your fault. Leslie runs for public office, and the opposition starts to bring in this lady named Brandy Max, okay? And if you can't tell from the name, her profession is she makes bad movies, okay? And what's funny is every time Brandy Max comes into the show, she never disagrees with Leslie, and she never says anything against Leslie. She actually supports Leslie, and she always tries to make it seem like her and Leslie are in agreement, okay? So she never says, I don't think you should vote for Leslie. Leslie's wrong. She says, me and Leslie agree on everything. We could be best friends. I think she's awesome. Here's what that does. When Brandy, tells everybody, hey, me and Leslie are close, whatever their view of Brandy Max is because of her profession, that now gets put on Leslie, and their view of Leslie goes like this. And so Paul and Silas are in an area now, Philippi, Gentiles everywhere, pagan worship everywhere, idols, sacrifices, temple prostitution, and you have a girl who is demon-possessed, and it seems to everybody in the city now that Paul and Silas are on the same team as the demons. Okay? And so even though she's not against them, because of the fact she's demon-possessed, when it seems like she's for them, it diminishes the brand of Christianity. Make sense? And not only that, but let's just be really honest, she was annoying. Okay? Pastoral application for our congregation. If you are an annoying person, stop, okay? That will change your life. Live it out. Stop being annoying and people will like you. Bless God. Revival in this house today. Okay, come on. Let's go. So the brand of Christianity's taken a hit. Paul's annoyed, and so Paul cast the demon out of her. Now, the reason I fleshed this out so much is because as I was thinking about that this week, I thought, wait a minute. Okay, let's just be super real. This is where my brain goes. With the Leslie Knope, Brandy Max thing, in Christianity, that person that society looks at is less than that person that culture views as kind of being bad for the brand, that person that has a questionable history and you hide your kids' eyeballs when they walk by. That's the exact kind of person that we planted this church for. And so it kind of creates this theological paradox where on one hand, I understand she was hurting the brand, but on the other hand, we literally exist to save people that hurt the brand. This church is designed to be full of people that every other church said, not you, you are gross. You with me? And so it kind of created this paradox for me where I said, I see where Paul's coming from, but now instead of somebody that's hurting the brand, this girl has a testimony. I was demon possessed and in bondage. I found Paul, and after a couple days of trying to ruin their ministry under the power of Satan, I am free and I am delivered of this demon because of the Jesus that is in him. That person that was bad for the brand became a testimony on which now Christ can be platformed. And so I want to be super clear that as we're parsing out this text, that we don't arrive at the place where the solution is, well, when that person comes in and they smell like alcohol still, or when that person comes in and I can tell they've been abusing substances, or when that person comes in and it's clear they haven't showered in a while. That's not bad for our brand. It is the brand. So here we are. Her owners get ticked off. Verses 19 through 20. Hey, man, casting demons out of people ain't illegal, so we got to make something up. They're disturbing our city and promoting customs that are illegal for us to follow. That's false. They come to the town officials, and that's what they will out. It's false. But the chief magistrates don't care. They don't ask any questions. So verse 22, they strip them of their clothes. They beat them with rods. They throw them in prison and put their feet in stocks. Okay? What? As we see at the end of this chapter, that was actually a big no-no. Paul and Silas were both Roman citizens, and there was due process. Same like it is in America. You are entitled to an attorney if you cannot afford one. Make sense? And I just wanted to pause on this right here, because though I don't think this is the point of our story, pastorally, here's what I see. These people who owned a girl who was demon-possessed had no issue with Paul and Silas preaching the gospel. They literally owned somebody from the opposite kingdom. But the fact that the kingdom of God was in town posed no threat and posed no offense. Do you know what you did cause a problem though? What did actually happen that ticked us off? What did happen that said enough is enough? You messed with our wallet. We don't have our circus attraction anymore. She can't tell anybody the future. We are losing our money. Oftentimes, hear me, your breakthrough and your deliverance are a straight line drawn to your wallet. Oftentimes, the thing that is making your life the most miserable, the thing that has your calendar in the biggest chokehold, the reason your marriage is why it is the way it is because we are slaves to the God of money. I need that Suburban, even if I have to finance $80,000 of debt. I need that new phone. I need that new house. I need that $7,000 designer poodle. Come on, somebody. And we become slave to our wallets. And Jesus is cool as long as I can have all of my stuff, live my life at my pace, never have to do anything of sacrifice. I love Jesus. I'm from the South. I dress nice for Easter. But the moment that Jesus wants lordship over your wallet and your calendar, now we're crazy. No good. You can have a lot of things. You can have my Facebook posts. You can have my coffee mug, Jesus. You can have the bumper sticker on the back of my car, live, laugh, love. That's not even in the Bible, by the way. If you walk the Christian life, sometimes there ain't much laughing. Come on. Right? Sometimes it sucks. Jesus, you can have everything, but not my wallet. All right, everybody's silent today. That's hitting. That's where we're at, just pastorally, y'all. This never was going to be a problem if all he did was preach the gospel. It became the problem when the gospel started to affect their wallet. So Paul and Silas end up in prison. They're in jail. Now watch this. Verse 25. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening. Hold on. They were just beaten with rods for the gospel. They were just threatened, falsely imprisoned because of Jesus. And then hours later, the same Jesus that got him in prison, they are singing and they are worshiping. If this was us, can we be honest? What would we be doing? We wouldn't be saying, we'd be complaining. God, I'm here because of you. This prison ain't air conditioned. There ain't no massaging seats in here. There's no Wi-Fi. Right? But no, not Paul. They're singing hymns. They're worshiping. They're not mad at God. They are bowing at God's feet. And then verse 26, watch this. Then, suddenly, there's an earthquake. Just like that. They're in prison. They're following Jesus. Jesus gets them in prison. They're worshiping Jesus. And now they're free. And if you'll excuse me, I've had all kind of sinus stuff this week. This voice ain't lasting. All right, this is going to be the shortest sermon you've ever heard, or I'm just going to pass out. One of two. Just like that. Delivered. Here's the entire point of the sermon. Worship precedes deliverance. Worship precedes breakthrough. Worship precedes your marriage getting healthy. It would be easy to worship if I've got a surprise cancer diagnosis and then God sends an angel who meets me miraculously in the hospital and does something for me that he's not done for anybody else. Worship would be easy. If you lose that job and then the next day you find $700,000 of cash in the trunk of your car, worship would be easy. I won the lottery. Well, hold on. What about when life kind of takes a different form? What about when things are tough? What about when the Jesus we follow actually leads us into some persecution for his name's sake? What about when standing on Christianity costs me something? What about when following Jesus actually has a negative value added to my life because culture is hostile to Jesus? What's the response? The same as it would have been when things were great. You see, the roller coaster that we ride, oh, things are good. God, I don't have time for you, but I like you. Things are bad. God, I don't like you, but I have time for you. What about Paul and Silas? Things are bad. I like you, and I have time for you. What else am I going to do? I'm in stocks. You see, that's the problem. What? Worship preceded their deliverance because, and this is where we've got to get theologically, it's not about God proving to us he is worth our worship. Dude, thank you. That's some telekinesis right there. I saw her get up and I'm like, please, Lord, send her to the fountain of youth. She went. Sorry, guys, on a budget here. We'll get a better facility one day with better speakers when we can afford it. But for now, Jim and my voice. Okay. I think what we're guilty of in American Christianity is we get to the place where we think God will be worth my worship when he can prove to me that he's worth my worship. Now, if you read Colossians chapter 1, God does prove he's worth our worship. Because Colossians 1 tells us Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. Through him and for him do all things exist, and there is not a thing that exists that was created apart from him. God's deservedness of our worship hinges 0% on what he does for us and hinges 100% on who he is. God deserves our worship not because he can make my life better, but because regardless of how I feel about him, he is the only source of good. He is the creator of the universe. He is the only source of life, and he sent his son to die on the cross for me. So it doesn't matter what is going on out here. Because of what Jesus has done in here, worship must precede my circumstance because worship is anchored in who he is, not in what he's done. The single greatest event in all of human history was Jesus dying on the cross and resurrecting from the dead. There is not a thing that can happen circumstantially that can begin to rival what Jesus has done on the cross. And because that is the case, the posture of my life must be worship because of who he is. God doesn't deserve our worship
after we've been healed, after we've been delivered, after we've been saved, after we've been blessed. God deserves our worship right now because he's the only one worthy. And this is how we could distill this entire passage. If you want one thing to take with you this week, here it is. The glory of God is a bigger deal than our situational turbulence. Because I hate to disappoint you, but you can follow Jesus for 50 years. You can follow Jesus for 1,000 years. And I don't care how mature you get in your faith, how blessed you think you are, there will be situational turbulence. We live in a broken world, and somebody tell me, we deal with a lot of broken people. And as life gets tough, the answer is not pray my life back into being the way I like it. The answer is, God, you are the only thing that makes my life worth living. Use what I'm going through to glorify your name. That's the difference. Now, verse 27, the jailer wakes up. Well, as you could probably imagine, it'd be a little bit frowned upon to, be over a jail and then, lose everybody in the jail. So he thinks, well, I should probably kill myself because if I don't, things could get bad for me. Paul and Barnabas hadn't left. That's what's crazy. They stayed in the jail. The earthquake comes. Suddenly, they have the opportunity to escape. They don't. And they call out to the jailer, do not do what you're about to do. We're here for you. And his first question is not, why did you stay? His first question is not, explain to me what just happened. His first question is, what must I do to be saved? When God intends to work through your life, to speak to someone else, to bring them to the throne of grace, he doesn't need you to fill in the details of everything that you think he missed. Let me repeat that. Paul did not have to go in with systematic theology and say, hey, just so you know, the God of the earthquake is the same God from Genesis, is the same God from Leviticus, is the same God today. And if you fall and ask for him to save you on the basis of penal substitution atonement by grace through faith alone, according to the Second Catechism, you will be saved. No, God sent an earthquake, and God used the earthquake, because when God purposes to move on our heart, God is the earthquake. One of my favorite Puritan quotes ever, God is not a kindly old uncle, he is an earthquake. And when God works through our lives and he grabs someone by the heart, God has a way of convicting and drawing and saving like only he can. And so Paul and Barnabas stay back and they wait, and God grabs the jailer by the heart. Sir, what must I do to be saved? And they tell him, believe in Jesus, right? Here's the point. God used the bondage of prison to bring salvation and freedom to the one who is managing the prison. It might be that person you share an office with that's really difficult, that gossips a lot. It might be that person that's in your family that you see every holiday that drives you crazy. It might be that person that you married, and you think I'm going to shoot them and they think I'm going to shoot you. It might be that God has brought you together and has put you through some things so that the things that you have been through can be the thing that brings them to saving faith. You might be the one, like Job, where you're just doing your thing and then one day God decides, I'm going to use you, and you think, this is crazy. I can't wait to be used by God. And then we see a biblical picture of what getting used by God actually looks like. Oh, you mean getting used by God means I'm the first one to be inconvenienced, I'm the first one to be persecuted, I'm the first one to be afflicted? Oh, shoot. Oh, hold on. You mean being the apostle that gets miraculously saved on the road to Damascus means that I'm going to get thrown in prison just so that you could save the jailer? Yep. What an honor it is to be inconvenienced, for God to use our inconvenience to work on those around us. What an honor it is to participate in a lifestyle of hard so that we can see God use the hard to reach people who do not know him. The next day, the Romans want to release him, and he's like, no, you got to come in here and march me out your dang self. You broke the law. We have rights and lifts, right? And so they show up, and they march him out. And where does Paul end back up? He ends up at Lydia's house. Talked about her last week. Meets with the brothers and sisters, and the chapter ends. All ends well. But what I want us to just kind of land in for a minute before we go, the crazy part of this story is that after the earthquake happens, after Paul and Silas are released, they do share the gospel with the jailer, and he does come to faith. So does his household. They're baptized. But part of this story is that the jailer washes their wounds. They were literally beaten with rods that day. And what I want us to see before we go, we can't miss this. Yes, God used the bondage of Paul and Silas to reach the jailer, but yes, the wounds that they suffered in the process were still there and didn't get miraculously healed when the earthquake came. God did not undo the history that happened to lead them to the prison. God did not miraculously erase the stuff that happened in your life that got you to where you were, even though he used it to make you who you are. The parts of your story that hurt, where the wounds are, the things that have left scars, the parts that you don't want anybody else to see, God doesn't erase the ugliness of your story. God redeems the ugliness of your story. And the thing that in the moment was, ouch, I can't believe this, we don't deserve this, one day became a testimony of, let me tell you about the time God sent us to prison just to save the jailer. I've got the scars to prove it. Come on, somebody. Anybody been through some things? Anybody ever had to walk through some difficulty and then you're kind of like this every time you get around church people because you're waiting for them to judge you? And if you haven't been through some things, you're either mentally insane or it's coming. Right? And I just want to get us all to this point to say, hey, I know that you have been through some hard situations. I know that you will continue to go through some hard situations. The rest of your life, as long as we're not in heaven, guess what? Really dang hard. And everything you have ever walked through, even though you thought it was going to kill you, here's the promise of a sovereign God. Though it was hard, it was never wasted. Everything you have been through, the good stuff and the bad stuff. God doesn't necessarily cause bad things to happen. That's the result of sin. But God uses the bad things that have happened to make you like him and to glorify his name. And so here's my encouragement. As you begin to get into a small group and you get around other Christians and you have the opportunity to pour into other people, the part of your story that you wanted to hide might should be the thing that you start with. The part of your story that you've kept close because you don't want anybody to know about how I used to live, that maybe should be the thing that you open with to show the world God was more sovereign than my sin. I am an amazing sinner, and God is an even better Savior. I ran fast. He ran faster. And we are where we are because of his grace. So how do we apply this? All right, call back to darkness. Don't be afraid of darkness, be missional. Yeah, darkness is real. And there are people in our city probably entrenched in darkness so much so that you don't want to go there. Like maybe we could hang out at a coffee shop. I'm not so sure I want to go in and all that. Those people are out there. But the answer is not, let's move to a compound, start a homeschool co-op, and then stiff arm all the darkness. The answer is run straight to the darkness and let Jesus illuminate light in the darkness, because John 1 tells us the light has entered the world and darkness hath not overcome it. And so when we identify darkness and brokenness, our response should not be get away, it should be get to it. So how? We talk about this all the time, every single week. Find your Bob. The acronym, burden, opportunity, Boldness. God, send me somebody. I know I've got people I work with that don't know you. I've got people I go to school with that don't know you. Give me somebody that doesn't know you that I can have a burden for. Give me an opportunity to share the gospel with them. Invite them to church. And then give me the boldness to not chicken out. So when we see darkness, step one, go be their friend. He's never going to be your Bob if he ain't your friend. If you don't like spending time with him and he don't like spending time to you, he ain't going to come to your small group. Number two, Paul and Silas, worship is actually important. I've got to share this. I never planned on saying this, especially with a camera. We can edit it out. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's an executive pastor at a church that has 14 campuses. So they're all over the place. And they went to start a campus in the kind of suburban area of their city. They went to start the campus, and they're doing the classic satellite model where you have, sermon on a screen and a couple live musicians. I think at this time it may have all been on a screen. Okay, so church on TV. Not hating on it. The particular area they went to was like very diverse of Caucasian, African American, and Hispanic. They sink a bunch of money and time. They had already hired somebody full-time to run this campus. They start the campus, and here's what they discovered. The white people around here, way too liberal. They don't like us. The Hispanic people have no connection with us. We don't have a Hispanic minister. And the African Americans don't like the way we do worship. And this is what they learned. And when I tell you this has messed me up for literal months, he said, this is what we discovered starting this campus. Caucasian people consume worship. African American people experience worship. And they thought our worship on the screen wasn't good enough. Here's my point. It bothers me that we can be an expository church and that we can have scripture line by line. Let's look at all the ways God is amazing. But when it's our time to actually participate and sing, well, all the other people that get involved, they're just charismatic and weird. No, maybe you're just dead. Have we considered that? Maybe the fact that you have such a low appreciation for God is actually a reflection of your relationship with Him. Like maybe the fact that we can consume worship is a problem, and the fact that Paul and Silas could be experiencing worship while in prison should be the model, not let's scale up consumeristic Christianity and build a church with 15 services. Make sense? I think worship should actually be what shapes our life, not an afterthought that is dictated by how good life has been. Come on now, Ward's probably hyped. Number three, say probably because can't tell. Mustache looks good all the time. Number three, pray prayers of gratitude more than give me prayers. If you had to take an analysis of your prayer life over the last 3 months, what percentage of your prayers are give me this and do this for me? Uh-oh. You see, because there was this really important guy one time named Jesus. You may have heard of him. He modeled prayer for us in Matthew. And this is how he starts his prayer. Our Father, who are in heaven, hallowed or great be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. That's like the exact opposite of God, I would like a better job and a faster car. Uh-oh. Your kingdom come means that God's kingdom takes priority over my kingdom. And I want to just challenge us on this week. Make it an intentional goal when you pray to pray prayers that are for God's kingdom and not mine. And lastly, practice gratitude. What is the muscle I need to work on in the gym in order to be the type of guy that gets thrown in prison and is able to praise God? It's easy. Gratitude in every situation. Horrible coworker, find a thing to be thankful for. God, at least their breath don't stink, right? Maybe their breath doesn't stink. God, thank you, I get to sit across the office, right? Find things to be grateful for. And from that, gratitude becomes a lifestyle. And one last thing here, we talked about this last week. We're going to be starting Financial Peace the third Monday in September. If you want to get out of debt, if you want to learn how to manage your money, if you want a financial game plan and you want to set yourself up for retirement, come to this class. Let me spoil it. One of the biggest things that contributes to debt in our society is that we have zero gratitude and 100% hunger. This lamp I bought 3 months ago, it's ugly now. Credit card swipe, new lamp. If we want to be a church that talks about, hey, financial peace, we're going to be financially discipled, we're going to have a game plan for our money to honor God, we're going to do all of the things, we're going to live a life that honors God. Step one, if we do not have gratitude and we are insatiable, the first thing that will reflect it is our credit card. And so if you're here, I just want to invite you, if you would like to be in financial peace, come see me. Or, you know what, my wife's with the kids today. Go see Ryan back there, a beautiful dark shirt. There we go. As a response to today, I think the best thing we could do would be to stand and worship.